Hi, what's happening, everyone? Welcome to another Sportscast. It's me, Andy Grant, and we've got Gary Judge again, once again, from Across the Park podcast. He is sunning up in Spain, so thank you for your time, mate, whilst on holiday.
You're welcome, mate.
Nowhere else to start, really, other than I don't know, what would you want to call it? What will that game get described in years to come at Goodison? Not really a battle of Goodison Park. What was it?
So I'll let you coin it.
I'm not a
The
great
battle of Goodison Park.
I don't know, what was it? It was listen, it was a game the whole of Liverpool was watching for different reasons. I said, yeah, with my family, actually delayed a birthday meal with my sister so we could watch it. And I'll be honest, I thought you were done. At half time. I thought, wow. I mean, what was it like in the ground? I mean, did you think at any point you were done? I mean,
Personally, no. I'm not just saying that now with the benefit of hindsight that we have obviously won the game, but at half time there was a lot of people panicking. I won't lie. I went down for a drink at half time and a lot of people were like looking at each other going, where's the goal coming from? And I get that because I thought that before the game, but I felt like we were in control of the game in general. I know there was a few Carey moments certainly after we scored, where Pickford's made a few decent stops, but I just felt we'd get it. It was never going to be from a traditional source because there wasn't really anyone traditional on the pitch who gets goals for us.
that was the thing. I was worried, and I was thinking, I mean, despite maybe he's looking all right or possession or whatever, I was thinking at the end of the day, there's no one to put that ball in the net, and that's why I fears for you.
Yeah, and that's fair, but no, I genuinely wasn't concerned. I think if it had got to like the 70th minute, I would have been on the edge of my seat then thinking, where is this coming from? But I think, getting the goal in the 50, and it was the 55th or 56th minute, I think it was. I think it was early enough for the fans to not start getting too anxious. And then there was obviously then half an eye on the Leicester one, particularly when they got a goal back and it was 2-1. But no, quite amusing that story though. Did you hear the story that someone had put a blag tweet out that Bournemouth had scored and the whole Leicester ground were up celebrating for about 5-6 seconds, until it dawned on most of them that it was blag. It's cute. I can't imagine that. That's the equivalent of a VAR decision, isn't it? Like, in the ground, but horrible. But no, I listen. They got the job done. Abdullah Corey, by the way. I mean, I'm made up for him because he has been probably the most outstanding player for us since Dyche took over. He's not going to be player of the year because there's some players in there who've been way more consistent over the course of the season. But for me, he's made a huge difference, particularly in that department in the final third. And the only criticism of him, bar the Brighton game, is that he just lacks that composure or that ability to strike a clean ball. And wow, did he strike a clean ball?
Yeah, just go back on the atmosphere a second. First, people going to players. What was there a point then where the fans were starting to get on the kind of players back? Where the frustration, or did that not really seep in?
Didn't seep in at all. Honestly, didn't. Not even a glimmer of it. And it does. It can do at Goodison in particular. We are almost infamous for when the players aren't putting it in, we'll let them know and let them know early, and sometimes that can have a even more negative effect on the performance. But it didn't happen. Didn't happen at all. Everyone was behind the team, the players. Everyone knew the magnitude of the game and how important the fans were going to be in it. I mean, even the Bournemouth fans, I've seen loads of Bournemouth fans tweeting saying, wow, what a support that was, and great to almost be part of the occasion. And that's literally what they were. They were just, the Bournemouth fans were almost there for a good time. They were made up to be there, as in be there and not be part of that particular relegation scrap, which is a story in itself, to be fair. I mean, if someone told me that we were going into the last game against Bournemouth and one of the teams were going to be fighting relegation, it had been nailed on Bournemouth. And I probably still would have been surprised to know they were in it in the last game. I thought these had been dead and buried by some distance.
Yeah, it was mad. Although, fair play to Bournemouth, he didn't roll over, did they, as a team? I thought they...
No. But when you asked me the question before, is to the worry. I don't know, they didn't roll over, but they just it never really felt to me like they had it in them. It was like they were almost reluctant themselves to get a goal. I don't know, but look, it's done now. I think the one thing to say regarding the atmosphere and if you like the celebrations at the end, there's a brief invading of the pitch, and that was quickly followed by boos from the rest of the fans to say get off. You know, it was mostly kids and people who got overly excited in the first few rows, but there was a real determination from the fans to not let the board or anyone else at the club think that was worth celebrating.
Yeah.
Again, most of the fans were off the pitch within 5 minutes, and it was chance of sack the board and the reality check really. Once everyone it got over the relief that we were still in the league.
That's what frustrated me slightly. I mean, I didn't, like I said, I had a family meal booked, so I didn't really see much of the celebration. But it frustrated me just on a fan level, and I thought, and I felt for, Evertonians, and I thought to myself, don't give the board, number one, an excuse to have a pop at you by invading the pitch, and two, don't celebrate, this team, because they don't deserve it. They put you through all season, and then, so I was glad to see on Twitter a few hours later that, pretty much summed up what you just said then, that it was quickly sorted out, and boos of the kind of sack the board, continued, which I thought is what should happen, because I just hate this feeling of, players and the board putting you through absolute hell for 8 months, and then at the end getting celebrated, and it's like, come on. So it was good to know that, that's not what happened, basically.
No, yeah, and look, there was a bit of banter from the Reds going, oh, here they are celebrating, they're getting the pictures of people on the pitch, and look, it happens, and there was an overspill of emotion from some people, and you asked the question at the start, did you think it was, you're getting nervous? I think a lot of people were getting very nervous, and it was relief. But yeah, I think that it was, I was made up that the fans eventually got that message across, and it looks, if you believe the rumours in the coming days, as though a takeover is very close now, there's going to be a bit of a leadership shift in the board. I don't want to talk too much about that because it is still heavy rumours at the moment that haven't been confirmed, but if that happens, then it obviously shows that there is that acknowledgement at the very top, and that bigger changes are afoot, which is what we need.
The only thing I'd say that then, just to kind of round off on Everton, is, you look at last season, was it 3 games to go? He's kind of secured survival. This year,
it was 2.
This
second to last game.
It's gone down to the last game. I mean, that trajectory says to you
we've gone back. We've gone backwards without doubt. Less points, as you say, going right down to the last game.
And next season, is that the fear already, thinking, this is only going one way? Or is there a hope that now that you've got Dyson, I mean, there's potentially these rumours of the takeover, do you think this is the turning point, or, I mean, it's just another season?
It's hard to say, isn't it? Until you see what the investment or lack of is in the summer, until you see which players come and go, as you say, assuming Dykes does stay, I think that is a positive in terms of just steadying the ship, if anything, improving the mentality and attitudes of the players, which is what's lacking more than anything else, or has been. And the most significant thing will be change at the very top, to start making more strategic plans for the club, which have been lacking for so long. But look, if there aren't no changes, if these rumours are either unfounded or whatever, and there isn't no investments, the trajectory, regardless of Dyche, will continue in that direction for me. I can't see how.
Is Dyche kind of wholly accepted and wanted there next season? Is he, or is the fans kind of thinking he was a bit?
I think initially when he come in, there was the feeling of a stopgap of like, keep us up and then we'll reevaluate then. And I even said a few games ago the same. Look, let's stay up first and let's see where we are. I wouldn't say he's widely accepted. I'd say, I'm careful saying this because I get criticised for representing the Everton fan base, but I'd say in the main, the fans appreciate what he's done. I certainly think there's an appreciation that he's brought a stability to the club and to the players and fans. When I say stability, I think the message from him has been fairly consistent since he come in, to say that, look, there's a lot of work to do here. Frank Lampard kind of blew the trumpet of, I'll make changes, I'll do this, we'll be further up the league, blah, 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 and then changed his tune the minute we started losing games. Dyche has been consistent from the get-go. Even when we won the first game the first home game against Arsenal, he was dead quick to manage expectations and say, look, he's got a long way to go here. This is not going to be an overnight fix. So I think that deserves some major credit. And for that reason, I'd like to think that most fans acknowledge that. Who else are we going to get at this stage? I think that's the bigger question. Who else are we going to get here that's probably going to have a good grasp of what's going on and is going to be able to deal with it and steady the ship?
Yeah, I mean, listen, as a kind of just a fan of football, I've been impressed with him. I think that job that he's come into there, what Lampard left it, you're seeing how bad Lampard's, managerial career's gone after Everton as well. And you think the job he's had to come in and turn it round. And at the end of the day, he was brought in to keep you up, and he's done exactly that. So I think fair play to him. I guess as well, which the big thing looking to next season is it's so hard to say, isn't it? Because you don't know whether the money's going to come in, whether this financial fair play. I've seen more stories on it today with Everton and Man City both kind of getting the book through at them saying this needs sorting ASAP, basically. So it's just going to be a bit of a worry, isn't it? Really knowing that if nothing changes, if you've got that same squad in August, I mean it's that what's that famous quote? The insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, except expecting different results. I mean, it feels a little bit like unless you
I think the last part of that statement, though, I don't think anyone will be expecting any difference or expecting different results. I think it will be very clear to everyone that we're in a huge battle from the get go if we don't make any changes in the summer. If what you're alluding to is true, which is a very good chance that is, we're either getting a points deduction or we're getting prevented from signing players or having to sell players. And if that's the case, we have to sell and we're not allowed to reinvest. There's only one way next season's going.
Yeah. Wait,
Here's Andy. I was feeling quite good about myself till he started bringing all that up.
Sorry, mate. Listen, you survived. Listen, it was great. I was puzzled to see actually a few mates, you included, who were, never gone down. And joking aside, I get some fucking shit through the season of being a bit bitter, but it was good to see obviously my blue mates happy. Hey, Liverpool fans, I don't think had anything can shout well for most of the season, to be honest. Bit of a mad result, 4-4 with Southampton, and again, bit of a Nottingham game. But
it was like a throwback to the early Klopp days, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But it was like everything in one game, and defending was dreadful, but then it was like he scored some decent goals. Madness.
They literally were already on the beach, some of them physically, some of them mentally. I mean, he obviously left Alisson out and Van Dijk and etc. But he had a Nottingham game. But again, I think for Liverpool fans, it's just all about now. That whole thing of, it used to be looking at the back page of the paper every day. Now it's looking on Twitter, just looking at these rumours of players we're going to get in, because I just think the way of the Premier League now, I mean, City, forget them, they're in a world of their own. But, you look at, Newcastle's now, you look at United with Ten Hag, you look at Chelsea with the money they've got, and now the new manager, which has been confirmed. You look at Arsenal. It feels like clubs are getting closer to kind of Liverpool's level than Liverpool are getting closer to Man City's level. So I think now it's just all about recruitment now for Liverpool. So listen, it's just Klopp and everything that he does, but it's just more about the people that they're bringing in. And obviously that's not always down to Klopp, which is the worrying thing for Liverpool. I think these McAllister rumours aren't going anywhere. I think you'd expect to see him come in. But again, it's who else as well, because I just think that there needs to be such an influx of players to come in to not only the obvious one, close the gap to Man City, but also fend off, these other teams coming now, because there's so many challenges coming from so many different areas for these, even Champions League spots, never mind that, going for the Prem. I think it's going to be such a pivotal season now for Liverpool, in the sense that if this goes wrong and we have another season where we're finishing third or fourth or fifth, I think Klopp could walk at the end of the season. I think if Klopp doesn't feel like he's on this next
wave.
Yeah, next wave, I think he'd be like, I can't do this again, because I don't think we appreciate just how much of an effort it is to kind of get the pull in from every aspect of the club. I mean, I suppose it's like that in Everton, but in a different way. Whether Sean Dyche is pulling everyone together for a relegation fight, or Klopp is basically saying, listen, this is the start of a 2 or 3 year journey where we win the league. The effort that must take, and the buy-in from everyone. And if you aren't getting the right players coming in with the right attitude and stuff, a bit of a false dawn. So I think, when I look back at Liverpool's season now, just a bit of a nothing season, and it's just all now on this summer and the recruitment. I don't think there's been a more important summer for Liverpool for a number of years, because every season we've just needed the odd one or the odd two. Now I think 3 or 4, and it's going to be massive, I think.
I was going to say it is a huge season for you, a huge summer. Sorry, I think I think for the first time, like you just said, not only just need 1, 2. I think there's some turnover needs as well. I think there's some players who need to leave the club, and
Yeah.
strangely enough, I don't think that many of them are as sellable as they used to be. You know, you used to look at your squad and go, okay, sell him for 20, sell him for 30, sell him for 40, no problem. I don't see as many suitors for some of these players as maybe there were, you know, 3 or 4 years, 3 or 4 years ago when you were getting rid of players. I think that's the slightly more concerning thing for Liverpool fans from an FSG point of view is FSG are not infamous for just letting players go and go, all right, let's just let them go for 5 million. They'll be old now for the 20s, the 25s. And I think that money shouldn't be coming for them. And if it doesn't, are you then going to be allowed that money to reinvest?
Yeah.
So, yeah, really interesting. I mean, it does look from the outside, if you believe the rumours, that they're not going to be shy this summer in terms of putting that money back in. But I mean, what will be, from a Liverpool fan's point of view, Andy, what will be the feeling, and be careful here, because again, I've tripped myself up with this, what will be the general feeling if this summer there isn't a higher net spend, as in something that represents an investment from the owners or from FSG?
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of angry people, not only for two reasons, not only if we don't spend a lot of money, but I think if we lose out on big players to other clubs. For example, it looks like Bellingham's already, you know, yeah. So if we're getting done by not throwing in an extra 5 or 10 million, and you know, I'm not a massive fan. We spoke about him last week, but I've seen Mason Mount look close to United. So if we end up don't strengthening, and then you see, for example, Mount going there, and I think that's what'll piss people off a lot. So not
You
only
might not be a sorry, you might not be a massive fan of Mount, but I asked you the question last week, does he improve you? And you were like, yeah, straight away. You know, he's best in Curtis Jones, for example. Will he be best in Curtis Jones 2, 3 years? I don't know, but at the moment, he improves that team, I think.
So if we're starting, you know, for argument's sake, first game of the season at Liverpool United, and we've got Curtis Jones in there, and they've got Mason Mount, that's when I think Liverpool are like, what the fuck, we could have got him. So I think Liverpool fans are going to be wanting to see a lot of money being spent. But also, I don't think it'll be nice to see us getting pipped to the post on certain players who we've been linked to, for example. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if someone comes in last minute for McAllister, and that causes a bit of a hoo-ha. So I think they're the two big things which Liverpool fans will be angry with. Just baffle me a bit with FSG because, you know, in the past, at times, we've been quite good for getting good money for, like, for example, Coutinho. But you look at the 4 players we've let go, who, you know, Navigator, you know, glad to see the back one. But this kind of reluctance to maybe not let him go 6 months ago and even get 20 million for him, like you've just said, you know, he's gone on a free. Chamberlain, again, he's been injury prone for a while. Why not let him go maybe 6 months early and try and get 5 mil for him? He's gone on a free. Bobby, and if you believe the rumours, it looks like he's going to Barcelona, Madrid. So, you know, it's a little bit like, fucking hell, we're letting these players go, which maybe probably yet do need to go, but yet they've gone for nothing. The one thing I thought was mad, I saw a big, it's got a lot of traction on Twitter at the moment. They put a bit of a, you know, interviewed all the players and stuff about James Milner. And it was like, you know, as if he's passed away, you know, a tribute to him, of how much of an amazing guy he was. I felt like saying, I think I did tweet this. Why didn't they play this tribute to John Henry and keep him on? Because you speak to everyone and he's like the life and soul of the club, keeps everyone's standards really high, and yet they'd let him go to potentially Brighton. So I think just
it's a little bit. It's not, obviously he's not the same level as Gerrard was, but it's a little bit like the Gerrard situation. He at that time was saying, "Look, I just wanted to be known that I just wanted to be valued and I wanted to feel wanted," and it didn't really happen. And you know, he was, I think he said after he left, you know, I just took maybe a player coach type role, but that never really got offered. He obviously ends up coming back in an academy capacity, but it does feel a little bit like that. And you can imagine that Milner has a similar impact on the training ground, maybe not as much on the pitch, but on the training ground, the dressing room, to the likes of your Carragher's and Gerrards. He's an ultimate pro, isn't he? Still the fittest player in the squad, apparently. So yeah, you wonder what the impact of you know, departures like that are going to have, you know, on a bigger scale.
I think what's going to put the kind of microscope over the club a bit more now is these days, and it's been like this for a while now, but, you know, social media and these fan accounts, there's some real statos out there who know everything about the club and stuff. And I think, you know, you look at those 4 players leaving, what's that? Keita will have been on about 120 grand a week, if not more, you know. So there's probably about well, 400 grand a week, 500 grand a week there, that's come available. So, for example, if we do get we can come in for a player and we aren't throwing big wages at him and he goes somewhere else, that's going to be the big argument. We've just lost Firmino, Milner, Keita and Chamberlain with a combined, say, 500 grand a week. Why can't we afford this player? Why can't we afford that player? So that's going to be the big thing for me. And just trying again to galvanise that squad. I think it must be difficult to try and, it's just like selling the dream again, isn't it? Oh, come on, let's just do this. It'll be worthwhile. And if you haven't got the right players in, it's going to be difficult to sell that dream to the likes of Van Dijk again, Robbo again, Trent, who were all pivotal in the first kind of wave. So
that's another interesting one. I don't think it's forthcoming at the moment, but when you start getting some of your bigger players suggesting that they want to move on, that's when it starts to become really concerning. It hasn't happened yet, but I think, like the fans, I think some of them players will get disillusioned if there's not really that level of investment that they're seeing at other clubs around them, and they can obviously see it having a detrimental effect on the squad.
But I think, when it's all said and done and the players get into the after-dinner circuits and stuff, and maybe some of them go on to intermediate roles and stuff, I think from a player's perspective, once they're not getting paid anymore off FSG, one of the big frustrations in their careers will be that, I wish that team would have strengthened when we were in a position of power. I think
momentum, isn't it? Yeah.
Momentum, struck when the iron's hot. And I think, obviously, you're not going to get Henderson come out and saying that now, while he's still playing for the club. But I think years to come, that'll be a big frustration for a lot of the players. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting summer, mate. And to be honest, I'm just glad to see the back of the season, really.
Yeah, fair enough.
I thought we'd give our take on Liverpool and Everton. Maybe should we do a bit of a roundup of the season in general? So manager of the year, mate. I've gone for it. I can't even remember his name. So I've just put the team he manages. I can never say his name. Brighton's manager. For me,
O'Neill.
Brighton.
Oh, Brighton. Sorry, Brighton. Roberto De Zerbi. I was expecting to say Bournemouth's manager, so I was like,
yeah. No, mate. I think De Zerbi, mate. I think. Listen, the obvious one's going to be Pep if he goes on and does the treble, but as you know, my views on City, I'm a little bit bitter to the whole, checkbook kind of thing he's got. Despite him improving players, which I just can't get on board with giving him that. When you look at someone's like De Zerbi, who, Brighton, decent team and all that, and you think, but I just think not only, the position, getting them into Europe for the first time, but I think, barring the results against you guys, I think some of the performances this season have just been absolutely unbelievable. You look at the team, apart from McAllister, and there's maybe 2 or 3 standout players. You don't look at that team sheet and say, wow, you know what I mean? And I think he's got them all playing together. And for me, I think another season or 2 in Brighton, I think he'd be going on to one of the really big jobs in Europe, if not the Prem. I think I wouldn't put it past him to make a bit of a mark on the Europa League next season as well. They remind me a bit of we're going to mention Still in a minute, who won the Europa League last night, but I think I could see them doing something like that. Do you know what I mean? Really having a good go in Europe. And for me, he's definitely been one of the standout managers, and for me, manager of the year.
Yeah, I think the encouraging one from a European front is that they've done well against the top sides, against the more continental-looking teams. They had a good go at City, they had a good go at Arsenal, albeit, they've generally lost. They haven't went into games trying to hang on. I think that's what you've really got to respect about the way he's approached it. And I think, well, a lot of the players and fans of Brighton, when you ask them the difference between Potter and him, was saying it was the inferiority complex that Potter had. It was like he approached every game, say, we're little old Brighton, let's just try and compete. Yeah. Whereas De Zerbi is very much, no, we'll beat these, we'll go in and beat them, we're a better team than them. And the players genuinely believe that. You can see it.
Yeah.
So psychologically, he's had a huge impact, as well as the brilliant brand of footy that they play. So, fair play.
Who have you gone for?
I've gone for Thomas Frank. They only finished 2 points behind off Europe behind Villa, and for the similar reasons that you said in terms of the resources he's at his disposal. Well, I wouldn't say lack of investment. They're very clever about the way they do the business, very much like Brighton, and they're probably the 2 clubs. I mean, De Zerbi and Frank were probably neck and neck for me. De Zerbi, in your credit, probably edges it for the achievements of Europe. But I just think the way they've gone about things as a club in general, they've done it the right way. And we credited both those clubs on the podcast a few weeks ago. But Thomas Frank, for me, in terms of the injuries he's had to put up with, he's had long periods of the season without Ivan Toney's now going to have a prolonged period without him now. And again, you know, the spine of the team there's nothing, if you like, exceptional. There's no real like worldies in there. The way he's transformed some of them players as well. Brian Bueno looks incredible now. He looks like a top player. You know, Norgard's been brilliant for them in midfield. But again, you're mentioning those names, and Bueno, Norgard, Ben Mees being an exceptional signing at the back for them. Rico Henry, I think he's in the next England squad actually, but he's been unfortunate not to be in an England squad so far, the left back. He's just done a brilliant job in terms of improving players.
He's really charismatic as well, a real likeable guy as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he just seems dead normal, doesn't he? I mean, there's a bit of the kind of, I guess you'd say there's a bit of the Klopp about him, but he just seems like quite a charming guy, easy to like, but high expectations, and you can see when he's not happy as well. You know, he gives you that look, or he gives the players that look when he's not happy, and you can see he's probably not one who shouts and balls, but he clearly gets his message across. So, yeah, I've got a lot of time for the job he's done there, and as I say, only a couple of points outside Europe, only a point behind Tottenham. It will come up in one of my categories in a moment, but yeah, Thomas Frank for me.
Good shout. Player of the year, who have you gone for?
Can't look any further than Kevin De Bruyne, to be honest. Really can't.
Really?
Just, yeah, Kevin De Bruyne for me. Absolutely exceptional.
Like, any further? I thought you were going Haaland.
Haaland. Yeah, I mean, look, my question is to you and anyone, does Haaland score maybe a third of those goals without De Bruyne? I don't think so. De Bruyne got an incredible amount of not only assists, but the second assist as well, where he slid someone in down that channel, it's cut back. His goal contributions, if you include that second to last pass, which you know is not a trendy thing to do, it is ridiculously off the charts. I just think he controls every facet of the game when he plays. His work rate off the ball is second to none. He's now become something of a leader for them as well. I just think he's just took his game onto the next level this season, and he just blew every other player out of the water.
What I think's really telling as well, when you're talking about De Bruyne, is you speak to Haaland, you say he's the best player you've ever played with. He says De Bruyne. Then even when you look at his rivals, I've heard Van Dijk say, you know, best player ever, De Bruyne. So it's like, it's okay me and you as fans saying it, but when you've got the people who are playing against high-level opponents every week, and they're all saying Kevin De Bruyne, it's when you know you've probably picked right.
That's it. Basically, more than one. So he's only played 32 league. I say only, you know, it's only 6 short of the maximum. Played 32 league games, 23 goal contributions, and that's just the assists and goals. 16 assists in 32 games. I mean, obviously they are a team that are blessed with a lot of forwards, and your argument would be, all right, your ball doesn't always have to be perfect, but his balls are perfect, aren't they? that cross, he's almost it literally on a sixpence for players. They almost can't miss a lot of the time when he plays it. He doesn't just find them; he finds them so that they only have to take one more touch to score. I just love watching him, mate. I just think he's a great player to watch, and for me, yeah, player of the season by a mile.
Perfect balls, De Bruyne. Yeah, mate. I can't argue with you, although you'd have to just throw Haaland in the mix. And I know people would say, well, would he be scoring that many goals if he played for Tottenham, for example? And you know what? Probably not. But I just think the fact that he has, you know, I think we all thought he was going to be good, but the fact he's come in and he's actually done.
First season, yeah.
And his first season as well, I just think, wow. And listen, granted, given what you've said, about De Bruyne in that team, you know, is he scoring as many? I don't know, but it all ifs and buts. And if you just look at the facts, he has done it. Do you know what I mean? And he's unbelievable. And he's, you know, those records that have stood for so long with your Alan Shearers and your kind of, you know, Mo Salah's doing it year in year and stuff. And he's just come in and just had no respect for any of them and just done his own thing. And I think the scary and worrying thing for the next few years is he's just going to get better and better. So for me, the fact that it's his first season, he's so young and he's potentially going to win the treble in his first season. Goals he scored, he's got a few assists as well. I think for me it's gone Haaland, but again, I wouldn't, you know, be far away from saying Kevin De Bruyne as well, because I think both of them together have made Man City what they are really.
Yeah, and again, credit to and I know you're gonna cringe when I say this almost, but you know, credit to Pep for making that signing and almost not swallowing his pride. He's always been that false nine advocate, hasn't he? That's been his thing at Barca, at Bayern. He never really played. Well, he tried his best to not play that out and out forward. I know he's had them down the years.
Yeah, that's it. With 11 midfielders, he's really gone against having a striker really at times.
Yeah, but listen, it's that acknowledgement from him and making that signing, and it's I certainly couldn't strongly disagree with you on Haaland. Like,
yeah,
it was amazing.
My team of the year is Newcastle. I think you've gone for that as well. Yeah. I think I seen a thing the other day, and it was like the point swing from last season to this season. I think Newcastle are right up there, and I think when Newcastle was taken over by this Saudi money, everyone thought they were just going to buy everyone, and that was it. And then the fact that they've not really, I know they've spent a little bit, but they've not kind of done a Chelsea, have they? And they've not just went and splashed the cash. I think just the whole team coming together the way they have. A few really good signings, and the likes of I'm a big fan of Kieran Trippier.
Huge.
I just think like how they managed to get Champions League from where they were last season. I just think what an improvement. And yeah, I just couldn't look anywhere else. I mean, Eddie Howe would have been potentially one of the managers, but
he was there for me.
But I just think Newcastle, how they listen, they were fighting relegation last season for long period of the season, and now they're in Champions League. I think I've not seen a team improve like they have, and that's why for me I couldn't look anywhere else.
No, you're spot on, and Eddie Howe was third on my list for manager, which is probably quite unfortunate or harsh given what they've achieved. I think the reason I put him third was almost like pound for pound, in terms of how much he's been allowed to invest. I agree with you, they've not gone mad with the money, but they've still spent, a hell of a lot more than the other two managers we've mentioned in there.
But honestly, they've not gone mad. It's because they've not really got like the marquee signings. When I think about a club going mad, it's like the buying
and the Robinhos back in the day with the City done, and I know what you mean, and you're right. But yeah, it's been and that's it. I think the way team does epitomise them as well. They've not had one real outstanding player. You mentioned Trippier, and I agree with you there. Callum Wilson's coming to his own towards the end of the season. Bruno Guimaraes, Joel Linton. Yeah, Nick Pope's done a solid job. Almiron flew out the blocks at the start of the season. They've all chipped in.
Yeah.
They've all had the moments really where they've kind of took the bull by the horn. Isak looks an amazing signing for them.
They conceded the least amount of goals as well, which I think.
Yeah, Sven Botman's been a great signing.
Yeah. When a team, they're got a good team kind of ethic, war working for each other, which goes a long way.
Definitely. No, I agree with you, mate. Couldn't disagree with you there. So I know we've got a few other categories now. One of them is surprise. It was a surprise team we're going for.
Surprise team, yeah. I went for Fulham. I think a team where I would have expected to see them right down at the bottom. But the fact that I think they finished 10th in the end, and they never really seemed to be in trouble at any point in the season. I think Marco Silva's done a great job there. Mitrovic again. Listen, Fulham got promoted. Do you know what I mean? Like they were expected to be one of the ones to go back down. The fact they've got a steady Eddie finish 10th in the league. The fact that Mitrovic could prove he could score in the Prem and do well. For me, big surprise. Cause I had them, at least in the kind of 17th, 18th kind of category. So, Fulham for me.
No, it's a great shout. I've gone for a bit of a different spin on it. I've gone for Spurs in terms of surprise, just how poor they've been. I know going into the season, a lot of the fans or the pundits were saying, those signings they've made really shrewd. Basuma, Richarlison, even Perisic bringing a bit of steel and experience in there. For me, I expected them to maybe not compete for the league, but certainly expected them to be well up there and well in the mix and being a tough opponent for the top sides. But for a number of reasons, and we're not here to analyse Spurs in and out, it's been a huge surprise how poor they've been, how dreadfully inconsistent they've been, which was the opposite of what they were under Conte. All right, they weren't pulling up trees, but they were consistent, if anything. They were tough to beat and break down at times, and he'd almost coined this counter-attacking football, which was very Italian. But big surprise. I mean, Kulusevski coming into he was one of the players I was looking forward to seeing kicking on this season. Son was incredible last season. Harry Kane is, to his credit, has maintained the levels almost in terms of goals. But the rest of them have hugely let themselves down. The manager threw his toys out the pram as he's done before.
I think
big surprise how poor they've been.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think this surprise has now give Harry Kane a few more questions that he probably didn't want to have to answer this summer as well. So
definitely
more interesting. Surprise moment of the season. I've gone for something which has been a pretty dreadful season for Liverpool. I've gone for the 7-0 against United because in a season where there's not a lot to sing and dance about, listen, whatever time we're living in, Liverpool Man United will always be one of the biggest games in the world. And to turn them over 7-0 was an unbelievable game. I remember being in there and didn't really even celebrate the 6 and 7 because it was a bit like going on. Like, you know what I mean? It was and I remember speaking to one of my good mates, Phil, from the match, and he was actually away in America and watched it back. And he said when you watch it back, you can tell that the 5th goal, I think it was celebrated a bit more than the 7th because after 5, it was a bit like this is not even what's going on here. So that for me was a massive surprise. And in a season where there wasn't a lot to sing and dance about, that was definitely one where we had a few beers and, a nice laugh. So I've gone for the Liverpool 7-0 for the surprise moment of the season.
Fair play, and I followed suit in terms of an outstanding moment for us, which was a rarity. And obviously you look back at it now with hindsight, and it's the victory really that's got us our place in the league, and it was the win away at Brighton, which, you give the Serbia manager of the year. He was second for me. Brighton were very close to being team of the year as well. To go there and beat them 5-1 in the manner that we did was just nothing short of remarkable. Like you guys beating United, that were fairly consistent throughout the season. It was just, didn't see it coming for one. I was in shock. It was shocking disbelief when I was watching it. But it was the manner as well. I mean, look, they had a lot of possession and there was a few decent chances in there, but we were just so clinical and just looked like if you'd have watched that as a one-off game and you'd have went, okay, where are these teams in the league at the moment? And you knew where Brighton were in the league, you'd probably
say you could fight for
fourth or fifth. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, I want to follow suit and say that was for me my moment of the season because, like I said last week, coming to the end of the season, there seems to be loads of last-minute goals, loads of penalty saves, loads of little things going on, and there was a point there where results may be going against you, and I think Everton are going down here, and it's starting to get really, really touchy. And I don't watch many Everton games. I don't watch many footy games apart from Liverpool. And I actually watched that game, and like you, it was a massive surprise, but also a bit of a moment of the season because for me, that was the moment I thought, they're going to be all right now. And I know it did go down to the last game of the season, and there was a point there where I was still a bit thinking, but I think after that Brighton game, for me, that was the moment where I thought actually they'd give themselves a real chance of survival here. And I put that as my moment of the season because it was such a surprise and such a pivotal result in that relegation fight.
Yeah, and for me, it was just double whammy for me. It was moment and surprise of the season, which is why I brought it up then. I couldn't think of a moment for me as a football fan, but mainly as an Evertonian, that wasn't more significant. I mean, if you're going to just throw something different in there, and again, I'm being very biased and just throwing Everton ones out there now, but the goal from Decore, as I said at the start of the show, in terms of he doesn't really strike a very clean ball, but one isolated moment. Yeah. It's like, look, that ball's dropped. If he doesn't score, we go down, and that was it. And he's hit probably better ball than he'll ever hit, and that's what footy's about for me. Just moments like that, and it's like, wow.
I think as well, mate, there's something a bit romantic in the sense of like, if you're gonna kind of score the winner to keep your team up, you don't really want it to be a little a tap in. I mean, that was a goal to keep you up, wasn't it? You know what I mean? It was a great.
Never have been. They never have been for us. I mean, the Barry Orme one, years ago, that flies in, off the post. The Farrelly one goes in off the post. Decore, even those three players, Barry Orme, Gareth Farrelly, Abdoulaye Decore, none of them really scored many goals at all.
On that goal or make goal of the season, I mean, I was struggling to think of some absolute worldies. I mean, I'm sure there's been loads, but I'm probably arguably recency bias. But I just thought of the Brighton one against Man City at the end of think it actually might have got goal of the year, goal of the season to be 1500s. But what a strike that was, by the way. Absolutely unbelievable. It's almost like he kind of, it's like half a cross, half a shot away. Just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's finesse, like with power, wasn't it? Incredible. I've gone with it. It's not an Everton goal, but it was against Everton. It was Gundogan at Goodison a few weeks ago.
Oh yeah,
this weird little like backflip, you know.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable skill, and I think you know, he's another player really that like, I wouldn't say he's announced himself. He's been around for a while, but he's almost been in and out of that team. But this season, obviously, he's been captain, played most games, and he's popped up with some really big goals for them as well. So yeah, that was just one of those goals where literally a lot of the people around me were clapping. You know, it was a game that we really wanted to get some, or were hoping to get some points from. But great goal, great bit of individual skill.
That's the review done, mate. Yeah. I started 6 weeks now, rolling on until we go again. Some of the news in footy last night. Don't know if you watched it. Roma and Seville in the Europa League. Went out. I didn't watch the game. Apparently, it was a bit dreadful performance.
Yeah, it was a typical Mourinho performance from the last few years. Anyway, they just killed or tried to kill the game, and
yeah, he gets beat on pens. But the thing was, which I thought was interesting, was apparently threw his losers medal into the crowd.
He's always done that. He's always given his losers medals away, hasn't he?
Has he?
Yeah.
He hasn't got many, to be fair to him.
No, but he's even done it with some of his winners medals before, hasn't he? He's not a big like.
Really, yeah.
You know, yeah, he done it with what was the team where he left and he's won? I think it might have even been the Champions League.
Inter Milan, he got left, didn't he?
Yeah, that was it. Inter Milan, he gave his winners medal away. I think he's one of them, Mourinho, where it's like it's almost the process he enjoys. Obviously, he's a massive winner.
Yeah, the destination, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I find interesting? It's people who get offended by giving your losers medal away. I think are the people who don't win a lot. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you're winning all the time, it's obviously not as much of a big thing for you. But I think if you kind of get, you know, someone who's a bit of a bridesmaid, never the bride when it comes to that. Like, I can't believe you do that. Do you know what I mean? I worked so hard and never got one, and you're just giving them away. So I've seen a few people just on Twitter and that this morning getting really pissed off. He's giving it away, but I think
he is what he is. You know, isn't he? Doesn't pretend. No, doesn't pretend to be anything else. He's a serial winner.
I mean, that was his 6th European final, and that's his first loss. Do you know what I mean? So he is, like you say, a serial winner, and he's going to do what he wants to do, isn't he? And the last little bit of footy about coming up, mate. Obviously, the FA Cup final this weekend, and then the Champions League one after. Don't know what else there is to say other than
can't see anything but you know, convincing City victories. To be honest, I really can't. I can actually this weekend. I can see United scoring first. Yeah, I can see them scoring first. Just you know, big ball over the top type thing, and you know, West or Martial getting away and getting a goal. But other than that, I think it'll be complete City domination.
I don't see me. I don't see them getting a goal, is what I mean. I think, you know, when we look back in a couple of weeks' time, you look at a league that's been won by 10 or so points. You look at an FA Cup final that's probably been the most one-sided FA Cup finals ever. And you look at a Champions League that's been one of the most one-sided Champions League finals. And inside,
that's a major mismatch, that Champions League final. I haven't seen a Champions League final for a long time that contains two teams that are so far apart in terms of abilities.
And I think the big debate will be, you know, you look at United doing the treble. I'm not sure how many points United won the league by, but you look at the FA Cup final, the Champions League final, you think, ooh, you know, and then you look at this City treble and you go, wow, they were just poles apart. You know?
Breathed it, yeah. No.
Maybe we move on to tennis for the last 10 minutes or so. French Open on at the moment, and our man Novak, I'm a big fan of him, has got himself in a bit of hot water. As after one of his recent victories, I think it was in the second round, he basically signed on the camera, Kosovo is the heart of Serbia, stop the violence, which has been deemed inappropriate. And he's kind of come out and said he knew it would ruffle a few feathers. And just bring that question again, you know, we have it a lot with football, but, you know, do sport and politics?
Does politics, yeah, does politics belong in sport and vice versa?
Yeah. If it's a positive political message for someone who you support, it's completely fine. But the second something, it's, oh, should he really be saying that? Which is interesting. I don't know nowhere near enough of the situation in Kosovo and Serbia to even, put my 10 pence worth in. But again, I just find,
He does though.
yeah,
He does, and that's just that's where he's from in terms of like that region of the world, and I'm sure his finger's very close to the pulse in that sense. And I don't have a problem with it. Absolutely not. He's all right. He's a highly respected person. He's a highly influential person. When you've got messages that condone war or the killing of people, then that's different. That very rarely happens. But when it's in support of stopping combat and stopping violence and why is that?
Yeah.
Why is that something he's not allowed to preach in the position he's in?
He said, stop the violence, # world peace. And he never actually mentioned the particular country. Everyone would be like, wow, that's great. But now that he's went a little bit political and sided a bit, maybe one side or the other, everyone have got which is interesting, isn't it? But I understand kind of some points when people say, sports is there to go and enjoy for 90 minutes. Politics shouldn't be.
He's done it after the game now, hasn't he? After the match.
Right,
He's not done it during the match. He's not stopped the match. It's his ball up in the air and shouted it, has he?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, but I also think as well, to caveat that, things don't change unless these things happen in sport where they're well watched and stuff. So
well, look at we just spoke about United briefly, and I mentioned Marcus Rashford. Look at what he's done during lockdown. Like he was, and it affected his performance. He almost sacrificed his own performance and his own professionalism because he believed in something so strongly. And look at the impact it has. It has a hugely positive impact on the young people of this country, and he's been since.
Kids end up getting fed where he wouldn't have been thanks to this Tory government. So yeah, probably worth it. On to the actual playing side of things, mate. You've got Alcaraz, who's actually the favourite, believe it or not, to win the Open. Novak's the second, and they are actually due to meet in the semis if they both keep on winning. So I think that side of the draw is going to be interesting. And again, you think one of them are going to win. Whoever wins the semi-final go on and win the title. You noticed as well, mate, Cam Nurray. Been impressed.
Yeah, I've been listening. It's been well documented. I think it was only a couple of years ago the first time he played on clay. And I think it was Davis Cup, maybe the first time he played on clay, and he went a few sets down, ends up winning that particular match. I wouldn't say he's far from a clay specialist, but the thing you can say about Cam Nurray is engine's incredible. He's one of the fittest players on the tour, and he played a tough match yesterday because he was playing a local in a Puy, and Puy was 5 years ago. It was up there in the rankings. He's had a dreadful few years, but had the crowd massively behind him. It was a really intimidating atmosphere. Nurray has had a tough 5-set match a few days ago, but he absolutely wiped the floor with Puy yesterday. I think he dropped one service game, 6-3, 6-3, 6-2 or something like that it was. But I watched the game and I was actually thinking this could be a decent 5-setter, but he destroyed them and he was very impressive. And I think he might be like 12th, 14th seed or something. I certainly don't think he's going to win it, but I'm really encouraged, to be honest, by yesterday's performance. I think he's going to go on.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I like it when you can kind of, you end up watching the odd match and you kind of get a feel for a bit of an affinity for a player and thinking, you know what, I want to follow him throughout the tournament. But I don't think he might do well until he comes up against big Novak or.
Yeah, that's it. At the quarters is probably as far as he'll get. I think he's on Alcaraz's side of the draw. To be fair, I think it's the quarters where they might meet, and that's where his journey will end.
And to finish off, mate, on a bit of golf, boxing, and UFC. The only thing on golf I thought to note was McIlroy, who's been a big, big anti-live spokesman, has come out and said, he thinks Koepka can be, a great addition to the Ryder tour, which I think at the end of the day, it's coming down to now talent and sportsmen saying being respectful and saying, look, we want the best against the best. And he's come out and said, look, I'm still against live, but we still should have the best playing the best. And sounds like he's trying to get a bit of unity going there, and because, like I say, I don't think no one wins if this lid keeps getting brought up and stuff. It's just going to bring the sport of golf into disrepute. And I think, bit of unity. It's nice to see him. What's been a bit of a bitchy kind of year or two, maybe since this live started, coming up. So I was quite happy to see there's, a bit of a cooling of the us against them. Do you know what I mean?
It's like anything, isn't it? When things come up at first, it gets very heated and passionate and stuff, and then when it starts to calm down and people start to reflect on, what it was like before, what it's like now, and then the bigger context. And we mentioned, the Ryder Cup, didn't we, a few weeks ago, about what it's going to be like if you haven't got certain players playing in it and whether it's going to be the same. I think for the greater good of golf, you want those competitions, the big competitions, the ones that have got history and heritage behind them, to have the best players in them. And the best players want that. I think some of them are starting to think about their legacy, thinking, do you know, take my legacy, this is one of the greatest because I haven't actually competed against the other.
Exactly.
Great. And I think that's what some of them are realising now. And you're right, I think it's a positive step forward, and hopefully the money goes out the window in instances like that, and the best players get to play against each other, because it would be sad for the sport.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And boxing, mate, you nailed it with a bit of your analysing, to be fair, with the coming up this weekend. I've seen on our little group chat and stuff, but you had obviously Dilling Smith put on a show. I actually watched that fight. He was the cornerman who kept on moaning at Coley, basically leaning on him, wasn't he, and stuff, and holding things up. Was it
Shane McGuigan?
Yeah, I seen one of them. It seemed to be like a lot of holding, a lot of kind of stopping at the fight, and then
Sugar Hill is Coley's coach. I didn't have the commentary on. The commentary was doing me head in, to be honest, so I had it on mute. I was just watching the fight.
Some moaning was going on, or I'm getting mixed up, but I just seen a Coley seemed to be leaning all the time.
Yeah, he was close to getting disqualified, a Coley. He listened.
2 points. Taking off 1 point.
2 or 3, yeah. I think it was 3 knockdowns in the end and 2 points taken off. I think 2 is the most you can get. A third is basically disqualification.
Is it?
It's like 3 warnings, 3 strikes. You know what? Admittedly, in fair play to him, he acknowledged at the end he was beaten convincingly, and he knew he wasn't in the fight almost, and he was just trying to level the playing field a little bit. Billum Smith was all over him, and again, I listen. He's a top competitor at Coley, and he's used to winning. You talk about the winning mentality. It was a bit of a Mourinho type, tactic, where he was like, I know I'm not going to win this the clean way, so I'm just going to do it the dirty way. Yeah. He does it on the touchline, doesn't he, and tries to drag the game down to his level. Yeah. I think it was just one of them. It was a highly personal matchup. They actually, they grew up each other. They were, stable mates, if you like, or gym mates. They used to spar each other for years. It was a lot on the line, but Coley was very gracious in defeat in the end, and he acknowledged that all those tactics were just to try and drag, Billum Smith into the type of fight that he wanted.
You had Conlon soundly beaten as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I did. I had them on split screens, but fell for him. But I mean, he come flying out the traps. Won maybe the first couple of rounds, but Lopez just blatted him in the end, and it was hard to watch. It wasn't a great one for Monterrey, because I think Conlon's one of their athletes he sponsors, and he got dismantled. And it's hard to see him coming back from that now. That's 2 heavy defeats he's had in the last 2 fights, and I mean, he might fight again, but
5-year deal or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had our man Nick Ball as well. Just looks similar type of. I think every time you see him perform, he performs in a similar way. It's just like a mini Mike Tyson steamrolling everyone, which I thought was great.
And he shows a different facet to his game almost every time he fights as well. He's gone the 12 rounds pretty much the hook of distance, even though he knocked him out knocked him out of the corner through the towel in with about 30 seconds to go. But just his fitness is just on another level. He spoke about Cam Norrie in a different sport there, but his conditioning is just second to none, and his power. I haven't seen anyone live with him yet, and he had some chin, by the way. The lad he fought was ridiculous. He took some heavy shots, but in the end, he got the job done, and he now, he should be looking at a title. He should be fighting Lopez, maybe Vargas next. It's got to be a title fight for him next, though, and I think he's ready for it. He's go for it.
What was the last fight? It was over in was it Lope? What was it?
Oh yeah, Lee Wood got the job done over 12 rounds, which is a massive victory. Yeah, Lara come in overweight. There was a lot of drama around that. Lara couldn't actually. He lost the title on the scales, but Lee Wood still had to win the fight, which listen, it's not the time to talk about him heavily against that ruling. But he went and done the job. There was some hairy moments where you thought Lara might come back into it, and particularly because of the first fight they'd had, Lara had got this unexpected stoppage, but made up for Lee Wood. He got the job done, which was the right thing for boxing. He looked in great shape, and yeah, buzzing for him.
And the one last little bit of news, mate, which isn't really news. I want to talk. Well, the two last little bits was apparently Fury sent a formal offer now to Joshua, but again, that could just be...
There's denying it and stuff. Yeah, and as he ends denying it. The other one, which is more significant, just to bring it up, is Callum Smith and Beterbiev. That's been made, that fight. Huge fight for Smith and Beterbiev. So really looking forward to that one. I mean, the Fury and Joshua one, who knows where the truth belongs in that one, but just as boxing fans, you just want it to happen, don't you?
Yeah, no, of course. I think that Smith fight's in August, I think. And yeah, mate, the one last one was with a bit of a flawed character, or he's been turning into be, was the Ultimate Fighting thing started in UFC with Conor McGregor on one side, and a guy who I'm actually a fan of. I know he's a bit controversial, but there's a podcaster called True Geordie, who basically put a video out basically saying, look, and he was a big fan of Conor McGregor, and just said in the last few months, last year or two, look, he's gone a bit AWOL type thing, Conor McGregor, and he made a video basically saying like Conor McGregor looks like he's drinking too much, he's on maybe certain drugs, whatever. I made a bit of a reaction video. Conor McGregor's fired back at him in a now deleted tweet, calling him a Burns victim, calling him he's went pretty hard on this True Geordie. True Geordie's then made a reaction video to him, and it's maybe worth looking at.
I haven't seen it, to be fair. You mentioned it before. I haven't seen it.
10 or 15 minute back and forth between the two, but I just think it's sad how we all built Conor McGregor up. I know a lot of us did. He's one of the reasons I got into the UFC, and you look at him now, and he's played someone who within the space of 7 years has went from the dole to earning 600 million. I mean, who knows what that'll do to you, but
yeah,
certainly been a bit of a social experiment. I just thought anyone who's a big fan of UFC and Conor McGregor might enjoy that little back and forth with him and True Geordie.
I'll have a look at that when we get off, yeah.
Gary, mate, I know you're on holiday with the family, and mate, you're taking the time out, mate, to chat sport with me as always. I know we haven't done this week. We haven't done the quiz this week because we're recording quite early in the morning. So next week I will double the pot, and it'll be £100 next week to whoever's signed up on Patreon. So do that now. It's £1 a week, and me and Gary next week will do draw and give away some cash. But Gary, mate, also don't forget as well to Farry, are you going to be doing podcasts on Across the Park during the summer?
Yeah, we are. We're gonna do one. We're gonna do one next week. We're gonna catch up with a few ex Everton players as well, just to talk about the fallout and what should happen next. But yeah, we'll be doing ones through the summer. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so make sure you follow Across the Park on all your socials. And Gary, once again, mate, thank you very much, and enjoy your holiday.
Cheers, mate.
Nice one, everyone. See ya.